Hello, I'm Miss DS Woman, and I have a question for you. Is there a video game in existence that you love, adore, and deeply admire? It brings you a great amount of happiness, but you have never played it. You haven't seen or touched a copy of the game in your entire life. Because I have several examples of these games, and I have decided to make a 3-part series detailing 3 games I love but have never played in my life. For the most part, I'll explain the third one later. I feel like the creation and development of Let's Play and gameplay videos online have created this weird phenomenon where people have strong feelings about video games because they watch their favorite creators play them, or they just got enthralled with the story or gameplay. I don't know if I want to call this a type of cognitive dissonance, but it's definitely a thing. Or at least it's a thing for me. Please let me know if I'm alone or not. To prove how real this is for me, I'm going to showcase these games and share what exactly I love about them. All the games I'm talking about are years old at this point, but still, spoilers beware. Let's get into the list.
Jimmy, please say something.
I am very eager to talk about Bully on this channel. I can't believe I haven't talked about it before on here, but that's besides the point. Bully was initially released on October 17th, 2006, and it is available on several platforms, and I do mean several. Platforms include Xbox 360, Wii, PlayStations 2, 3, and 4, Microsoft Windows, and even iOS and Android. Researching this was literally how I found out that Bully has an app, like a mobile application. I'll have to look at that sometime. Hey, this is me editing this video, and I can't believe that I neglected to mention this in the original recording. But there are, as far as I know, 3 different versions of Bully. There's the original version, obviously, and then there is the Scholarship Edition, which is the one with the updated graphics. And last but not least is the Anniversary Edition, which I believe is the one on mobile sites and platforms. I'm going to be using all of these interchangeably, and I won't really be going over the differences of them because I haven't played the game, so I wouldn't know. With that being said, let me go ahead and break down why I love this game. So when I was deciding what I wanted this video to be like, a big thing that was puzzling me was, how do I display what I love about these games properly? How do I make what's in my mind make sense for the viewer? The idea that I came up with for this particular case is the Chart of Love, as you can see on the screen. So the Chart of Love consists of 4 categories: aesthetic, description, why I love it, and miscellaneous, just anything that I couldn't fit into the former 3 categories. I hope you enjoy these charts and all of their details as I go over every single one of them. One more thing, I made these charts using Canva on my desktop. If anyone's interested or wants to use something similar, or just make something similar, maybe you can make your own Chart of Love. Feel free to. With credit, of course, because it came here first. Thank you. Let us begin with Bully. Okay, so as far as the aesthetic goes, for this section I wanted to get 4 pictures of either in-game material or promotional material or just something relating to it that really captures the essence of what it looks and feels like. So this first picture we have in the corner here is Jimmy, the protagonist, who we will learn more about later, with, I either believe this is Mandy or some cheerleader that's kissable in the game. But yeah, Jimmy can romance girls and even guys in the game, which we will get to later as well. And this is an example of him doing exactly that. The second image right here is Jimmy with the prefect. And the prefects are basically like the cops of the school. They try to quote-unquote keep everything in order. So they're always making sure that people are in class or just like doing what they're supposed to do, you know, not being out past for curfew, that type of stuff. And they end up chasing Jimmy a lot, whether you are playing the missions or just doing stuff that you shouldn't be, according to them. they will be sure to chase you and grab you exactly like this prefect is doing right here, and I thought that was a crucial component of the game. This third image is actually the antagonist of the game, Gary, who's right here, whispering in Jimmy's ear, and I just think that is so quintessential because it really resembles a lot of the plot, you know? And this is spoiler territory, so you've been warned. Gary is really, he's unwell mentally, and, someone that sees folks and all they want to do is use them to get to the top. That is Gary's mindset. So throughout the game, he pretends to be a friend to Jimmy for a little bit, while also, fanning the flames and sparking things in his ears, which we will also get to. And last but not least, we have this picture of a student being bullied. Someone is shoving his head in the toilet. I know there's some term for that. I know it's not a swirly, but I can't remember it. I'll put it in editing. But yes, I thought these were all quintessential elements and photos. To explain what Bully is about, I'm first going to read its description on the Rockstar website because it's so dramatic and I love it. The Rockstar tradition of groundbreaking original gameplay and humorous tongue-in-cheek storytelling invades an entirely new setting, the schoolyard. As a mischievous schoolboy, you'll stand up to bullies, get picked on by teachers, play pranks, win or lose the girl, and ultimately learn to navigate the obstacles of the worst school around, Bullworth Academy, a corrupt and crumbling prep school with an uptight facade. No, but seriously, Bully's protagonist, Jimmy, the mischievous schoolboy in quote, starts attending the boarding school Bullworth Academy, and while he's there, he gets into all types of shenanigans. I won't get into excruciating detail, but Jimmy is ultimately tasked with stopping all the corruption in Bullworth and creating some peace and harmony. The gameplay style is similar to the GTA games, it has an open world, but there are confines within that world. There are missions that the player needs to complete to advance the story. I've heard people refer to it as the kiddier version of GTA, and I can't disagree with that. At the time of my posting this video, it's not completely clear whether or not we are getting a Bully sequel. There are perceived hints, of course, but I can't say with certainty that it'll happen. But hey, we finally got a GTA 6 trailer, so there's hope for us yet. I think. Now we get on to why I love it, which is the easiest section by far. So the first point is that it was something different for Rockstar. Now I'm not going to sit here and claim that Rockstar makes only GTA type games or they all make the same game, because I quite frankly don't have the knowledge of the range to sit here and say that. However, I think largely people know Rockstar for the GTA games. I think most of us would agree on that. And I honestly think that Bully could have been a big series for Rockstar if they continued it genuinely. Because people still talk about it to this day. I'm talking about it right now. I just really loved the school environment, which leads to my next point. The school environment tackled several subjects. I really like how honest the game is, that's the best word I can say, about the corruption that goes on in schools. Yes, it is a dramatized version of it, but I still think that it points out a lot of things like bribery, cheating, the power dynamics that go on between teachers and students, and relationships, and how you're treated when you're not conventionally attractive, or how cliquey things can get, or how you have to fit in this image of being the toughest one around because you don't want other people to bully you. Bullying in general. I think Bully is a refreshing look at all of those things, even now. Also, my third point, the twists were present in this story. And I'm not going to say that they weren't easily identifiable, because they were. They were, however, they were still just as entertaining in my opinion. If you haven't caught on by now, obviously Gary betrays the protagonist, and he ends up being the final boss in this game. I honestly wish that Gary had stuck around as Jimmy's friend for a little bit longer, and yeah, I think that's really all I can say. Because having him show his bad intentions early on, Yes, it led for a cool fight with Russell, but at the end of the day, you kind of had that lingering question of, okay, are y'all going to do something about Gary? And they go throughout the whole game, like making Jimmy the king of the school, and they don't acknowledge how Gary can easily screw things up for them, which he does. Petey called it out though. We stand Petey in this house. And last but not least, there's just a level of unseriousness that I truly love about this game. It seems to me like it has a goofy atmosphere and it really loves to make some jokes. I'll see if I can put one in this video without it being taken down for copyright.
That guy's gone even crazier. He thinks Algie is trying to put the moves on his girl.
Algie and Lola?
I know, it's crazy. Everyone knows Algie likes blondes.
But if not, I really love how the game doesn't take itself too seriously, you know? Last but not least, we get into the miscellaneous things. And the first one is that Jimmy is indeed a bicon. So fun fact, you can kiss both a girl and a boy from every click in this game. Or Jimmy can. Anyway, I believe it's like some setting you can make whether you want to do that or not. And I'll have to look that up and elaborate in an editor's note. Welcome to the editor's notes. So I'm looking this up right now and it says that you have to basically select the kissable boy and use a button combination. And then after that you can give them flowers in order to kiss them. That's what the general consensus is. The next point says, oh look, a high school story that actually feels like high school. A lot of high school stories that come out, to me, feel like they would make a lot more sense if they happened in college. But the good news is, Bully is not one of those stories. It actually feels really appropriate. And by appropriate, I mean as appropriate as it can be for a semi-realistic story about a prep school. And last but not least is things that didn't age well in retrospect. So this will be a voiceover section as I want to make my points as clear and concise as possible. Just so you know, I'm not going to look through these games and point out every single thing that could have possibly aged poorly. Not because I don't think that's important, but because I want to point out specific things I remember from their stories years ago and discuss them here. So for Bully, I remember a couple of missions where the events were messed up. The first one is Cook's Crush. In this mission, Jimmy goes to the cafeteria and sees Edna, the lunch lady. She tells him about a date that she will have with Dr. Watts, who is a science teacher. Edna asks Jimmy to get some things around the school to help her prepare, including sedatives. If you're unfamiliar with what a sedative is, Google defines it as a drug taken for its calming or sleep-inducing effect. So that's already a red flag. But then in a later mission titled Cook's Date, when they go, Jimmy has to spy on them and stop other Bulworth students from disturbing them, which is an understandable request on its own. But the worst part to me is at the end where Edna seemingly takes the doctor somewhere to quote-unquote teach him about chemistry. The whole thing seems to be lacking Dr. Watts' consent, and it's like, haha, that's so funny because he's a man. You can let me know if I'm misreading this, but it ain't enough consent around for me. It just isn't. Speaking of not having consent, the next mission I remember, or set of missions, because I realized I mentioned two, is Discretion Assured. Before I say what happens during Discretion Assured, I need to get into some context with a former mission named Paparazzi. In Paparazzi, Ernest, the leader of the nerds, asks Jimmy to get scandalous photos, in quote, of Mandy. So Jimmy goes to the girls' dorm and gets pictures of Mandy taking a shower. The photos of her aren't explicit, but they are risque enough for you to get the picture. So fast forward to Discretion Assured, and the photos of Mandy have somehow been blown up into posters and plastered around town, and she is very upset about that, as one would expect her to be. Jimmy feels remorseful about this, and he goes around town covering up the posters of her. After the posters are covered up, he and Mandy kiss and the mission ends. Now, don't get me wrong, Jimmy covering up those posters of her was a good thing, and I would argue the right thing for him to do. However, he was still the person who took these scandalous photos of her in the first place. I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos about these games that I'm doing this series on, and Fuzzy Slippers worded it well in his video about Bully when he said, taking scandalous photos of a girl, not telling her, and then taking the hero, in quote, position when you take posters of said photos down is wild. So yeah, those were two missions that even when I watched gameplay of them in middle school, it didn't quite sit right with me. And now that I'm much older, I can definitely explain why. And that's not to disparage this game or say that you shouldn't be playing it, but I do think that we need to talk about things that haven't aged the best. So if you remember something that I haven't mentioned here that might not have aged well or did age well, because, a lot of stuff in this game did age well, feel free to comment about that and have an open discussion. Please be respectful. Hey, I'm recording in a different room for this outro than I normally do, so if I sound echoey, that is why. Anyway, as you can see, Bully is a game that I find fascinating, and at the end of the day, it's a product of its time. Even so, it speaks on some real stuff, and I like the messages that shine through. I especially love how, at the end of the game, the students get out of their cliquey mentalities to go against the causes of corruption in their school. If you have played this game or have a similar experience, again, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments. That said, since Bully takes place in a fictional school environment, I feel that it would be irresponsible of me to not mention what's been going on in real schools for the past few months, specifically universities. I'm sure that by now a lot of y'all watching have heard about the pro-Palestinian encampments, but if you haven't, there have been, and still are, several student encampments on university campuses in protest of the tragedies happening in Gaza. The majority of these protests have been peaceful, and the people leading and participating in them have faced a lot of hostility, and it's just been horrible. In my opinion, this just goes to show the awful material conditions a lot of folks are in around the world, and the way that university students protest against atrocities. I will have links with more information on this, and ways to help in the description of this video that I implore you to check out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and my apologies for it taking so long to get out. It really should not have, but I was just so busy in my life offline that I ended up pushing back its release date over and over. But it is here now, and I will keep uploading for as long as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good time wherever you are.